Good day. My name is Shimon Lawton and I work for MANCOSA's School of Education. The COVID-19 pandemic has changed our reality. The spread of the virus, mainly through droplets from the mouth and nose, forces us to change our social interactions, including those of teaching and learning. Due to the socio-economic inequalities in the South African context, quintile 1 to 3 schools do not have the necessary resources to switch to high-tech remote teaching and learning. Over and above this limitation is the capacity and the readiness of some teachers, as technology skills were always seen as a tool for the ICT classroom. But COVID-19 has thrust all educators into this uncharted territory as we look at how to effectively teach and learn remotely. This webinar series will focus on building and fine-tuning tech skills of educators throughout the South African context, from those with none or limited tech skills to those looking to refine their ability to teach remotely. We at MANCOSA's School of Education believe that the challenge brought about by COVID-19 pandemic should not result in children from deprived environments being left behind. It is with this in mind that we have gathered together professionals to equip and train our teachers to serve our communities meaningfully during this time. The MANCOSA SOE is proud to be a partner in this essential initiative to equip our educators and enable them to adapt to this changing environment.
We are currently doing a series of webinars. My name is Shimon Lawton and we'll be speaking on teaching and learning remotely. Today we'll be focusing on distributing content during remote teaching. We have with us Matthew Barnwell. Matthew Barnwell is a South African currently teaching in Cape Town as a music teacher. He also serves on various creative and media content and development teams in church contexts. Over the years, he has developed a keen sense of understanding how to disseminate content and information both effectively and economically to the South African population. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you, Shimon.
You've been working with this topic for some time now, and how have you found this effective for teaching during this pandemic?
Yes, well, ultimately we're looking at how to get content from the teacher to the student and looking at ways that are effective, but then also, easy, both on the creation side of the content and for the person receiving the content. Looking at the ease of access as far as it concerns the technical knowledge, as well as how much it costs, because it costs to download material. So yes, we've been looking at ways during this pandemic on what's the easiest way for someone to create content, regardless of resources available, and what's the best way for someone to access that content in the most cost-effective way.
Definitely, I totally agree, because we have schools that are quintile 1 to 3 in South Africa, which are the under-resourced and rural schools. And so we're looking at how can both the teachers and the learners benefit at this time from the webinar series. What would you say would be something that could possibly benefit these schools that they could use as a platform?
Yes, so the most popular app globally that comes pre-installed on most cell phones is WhatsApp. So yes. I've started to look at ways of using WhatsApp as a form of delivery to get something from one person to a group of people. And with that, with WhatsApp, what's nice about it is that you can send various types of documents. So you can send audio, you can send video, you can send pictures, and you can send Word and PDF documents through that platform. So my focus has been on primarily looking at audio lessons. So how can WhatsApp be used to send audio lessons from one person to another, or from a teacher to a class? But then also look at ways at minimizing the size of the audio file so that it doesn't cost too much data, both to send and to receive.
I think that's a very good point right there, because many of the teachers are worried about actually data usage. And so if we can compress the folder and use less data, I think this could be an amazing tool that teachers could use for teaching remotely. Would you be able to walk us through how this process is actually done from a start? Give us a starting point and step by step take us through it.
Sure, no problem. Let me share my screen with you. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I want to look at two applications briefly. So in order to share content, specifically audio, through WhatsApp, you're going to firstly need the WhatsApp app. And like I said earlier, this on most cell phones, WhatsApp is pre-installed. So when you get the phone, there's WhatsApp. However, in the case where WhatsApp is not installed, you download it from the Google Play Store. I'm speaking about Android devices now, and it will be 27 megabytes. Then, secondly, there's another app I want to look at. It's called Timbre, Timbre, and that's 16 megabytes to download. And that's the app that will be used to compress the audio. So looking at the process. So step one would be to create a WhatsApp group for the class. So as a teacher within WhatsApp, you just click on the three dots, create new group, and you would need the cell phone numbers of the kids or the parents that will be part of the group, and then you create the group. Okay. Secondly, would be to create any text or image content if it's required for the lesson. It can just be an audio lesson, but for example, if it's a maths lesson and you actually want to write out the steps of a sum, you can write that out on a piece of paper and use the camera to take photos of each step, for example.
Matthew, can I say something there?
Sure.
In our webinar for this particular phase, in the second webinar for phase one, we have actually Henrika, who has clearly set out the guidelines. So those of you who haven't watched webinar 2, if you could please go there, and she takes us through the steps of how to create content along with video or audio format for WhatsApp. So that would be a great webinar to also link in if you're looking at creating content. Thanks, Matt.
Okay, that's great. So once the content has been created, the visual content, we can then, step 3 is record the audio. Now, just on recording the audio, there is a feature within WhatsApp to send a voice note or a voice memo.
Yeah.
So that can be utilized. However, I would recommend using the audio recorder app on your phone. Now, if you can't find it on your phone, again, you can just go to the App Store and type in audio recorder, and there are many different audio recorders to choose from, and they all basically do the same. And then step 4.
Why would you recommend audio to record the audio separately rather than doing it within the application itself?
Okay, well, in WhatsApp, there are 2 ways to record the audio. If you look at when you're typing a message to someone in WhatsApp, on the right-hand side, you'll see a picture of a microphone. So you can either hold that down for your voice note, and then when you let go of your finger, you can send it, or there's an option to, when you press attachments, and then you can record the voice note. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is you can't really trim and cut the audio file. And also for saving for later purposes. So for example, when you record a voice note on WhatsApp, it saves the audio file to your phone, and the file name would be WA for WhatsApp, and then you'd have a series of numbers.
Yeah.
Whereas if you record through a third-party application, once you've recorded it, you can rename the file first. So you can say lesson 1 fractions. Okay. And then if ever you need to go back to that lesson, it's a simple thing of opening your folder on your cell phone and looking for file 1 fractions. instead of sifting through your WhatsApp folders with all these numbered files.
I totally agree with you.
So for cataloging the file, for easy retrieval, it's best to use an external app where you can just rename it, and then if ever you need to that file again, you can just call that up again.
And it's good to remember that most phones do come with audio recording device on their phone. It's just a matter of finding in settings whereabout it's located. So I think that would be something that definitely teachers could use.
Yes, and I would recommend using the app that comes with your phone, just because it would work the best with your phone. But again, if you can't, there are many alternatives on the Play Store. Now, the thing with recording a lesson, I mean, a lesson can be anywhere from 5 minutes to 45 minutes or beyond. So depending on how long the lesson is, if you look at step 4, you might have to compress the audio. And we're going to look at that a bit. So if we look at WhatsApp, the limitation to using WhatsApp for sending audio files is that there's a 16 megabyte limit on the file you can send. And that's for any file, whether it's a video or an audio file. Okay. So the app on the right there, Timbre, that acts as a compressor. Basically what a compressor is, it takes a file and it lowers the size of the file by lowering the quality of the file. So there is a bit of a trade-off. The quality of the file will be affected a bit, but the advantage is that the file will be a lot smaller. So A, it can be sent through WhatsApp, and B, it does not cost too much in terms of data.
So Matthew, how long do you think an audio voice note would be for an effective one to be compressed? How long are we looking at?
So in my experience, the longest file that I've compressed for WhatsApp was 50 minutes. That's 50.
Okay.
Without compromising too much on the quality.
Wow, that's a good amount of time.
So about a 20-minute lesson, you could actually send through with quite high quality audio. But once you get beyond that, compression will be necessary.
And so does it, obviously the time does affect the data usage, am I correct by saying that?
Yes. Okay. So when it comes to actually recording the lesson, and this will double up with lesson planning, it's best just to get straight to the point and not use too much time, you know, I mean, as in use the time effectively so that you're limiting the talk time so that it limits the file size. Okay, so looking at this app, Timbre. So let's say you've recorded the file, you've renamed the file to whatever lesson it is, and now the file is on your phone. What you need to do then is look at the file size. And you can do that on most phones just by holding down on the file, and then a menu will pop up. Or there should be 3 dots, a small menu icon on the file. You can click on there and select properties or information. It will either be properties or information, or some phones it'll be details. And there you can see the file size. So if you see that the file size is bigger than 16 megabytes, then you will open the app Timbre.
Okay.
Now, once you open the app, there'll be various options. Timbre can convert video files as well as audio. So if you look at the top to where the arrow is pointing, so first, number 1 is you open the app, you'll get to this screen. Number 2 would be to select bit rate. That's that icon there on the right.
Yeah.
Now, the higher the bit rate, the bigger the file. The lower the bit rate, the smaller the file. Now, our goal is to get the file as small as possible without compromising on the quality too much. So once you click on bitrate, you'll be taken to this page. And this page will have every single audio file that is saved to your phone will show up on this page.
Okay.
So that's why it's important to rename your file as soon as you record it. So you record it, you can give the file a name so that when you're in Timbre, you can easily access the file.
Because yeah, I see some of the files underneath. The last few files are just like a couple of letters and digits. I find that would obviously become a problem. So you would have to go in and listen to see what file it is. So I totally agree that we should be labeling the file so it is effective for us, definitely.
Yes, yeah, so all those files at the bottom, those are all things that I recorded through WhatsApp. And you can see it'll take quite a lot of time to sift through it and play back to find the correct one. So yeah, renaming is very important. Cool. So once you are on this screen, all you need to do is tap on the audio file. So once you tap on the audio file, this screen will pop up. So there are two screenshots there. So look at the one on the left. It will say original bitrate, and then underneath that, it will say new bitrate.
Okay.
So all you need to do is, if you look at step 3, it says lower bitrate, and in the second screenshot there, it's changed to 60. So in the previous one, it was 192. All you do is that red slider underneath, you drag it to the left until you get to 60. And then that's telling Timbre that you want to change the bitrate from its original bitrate and you want to bring it down to 60 kbs, kilobytes per second.
Matthew, can I stop you there for a second, just so I can understand this? So I now drag that red icon from the left to the right. Am I saying that properly?
Yes.
So when I drag it, so the one the arrow that's pointing to the number 4, from 4 to the icon. So I drag it from left to right.
Not that icon where 4 is. If you, the red line that's underneath the new bitrate.
Okay.
Yes.
I get you.
Yeah.
The actual line at the bottom, the red line at the bottom. Okay, so I
where
drag
that dot is, you will drag that dot here.
Is there a particular reason why I only drag it to 60?
Now, 60, generally, if you look at a decent quality podcast or an audio lesson that you would find online, 60 is a very comfortable, it's a very comfortable size, 60 kilobytes per second, because it brings the file size down, but it maintains a lot of the quality.
Okay, so I'm doing it because of quality.
Yes, especially because of if it's just voice. If you've got like music playing and you compress it down to 60 kilobytes per second, then you will hear a big difference. But if it's just talking, then it doesn't make that much of a difference. You will hear a difference, but it won't sound terrible.
Okay, makes sense.
Now, underneath there, I said, underneath point 3, I wrote there 40 to 60 kilobytes per second. If you let's say you convert it to 60 kilobytes per second, and then step 4, you click on that red button, and then that will do the conversion. If after you did the conversion, if the file is still too big, so if the file is still bigger than 16 megabytes per second, then you must come back into Timbre and just lower the bit rate. So maybe change it to 55. Try it. If it's still too high, change it to 50. And why I give the range 40 to 60, I find that once you start going below 40, then the audio quality is just terrible.
Okay.
And then the learners may find it difficult to really hear what you're saying. However, I don't see a need to go below 40 if your lesson is less than 50 minutes. You shouldn't have to go lower than 40.
And I think it's good to explain to teachers here that we don't want to necessarily have our students listening to a 50-minute lesson because their concentration is not going to be that long. So even if you want to do a longer lesson, rather do it in 2 parts than having one audio note being so long. Do you agree?
Yes, I fully agree.
Okay.
I mean, the more compact the package is, the more engaged the students will be. That's been proven.
Yeah.
Yeah. So compact and to the point. And if it is a if the content is quite large that needs to be covered, rather break it up into 2 or 3 lessons. Yeah.
Okay.
And then just some options. So if you look at the bottom of the screenshot where it says export options, that's just where you can rename the file and you can choose where it saves. So if you click on the folder icon, you can choose which folder it will save on your phone, and then and the file name. What I suggest, so let's say you recorded your lesson and it's lesson 1 fractions. That's the name of the file.
Yes.
When you are now in Timbre and you're about to convert it, change the file name to lesson 1 fractions, 60 kilobytes per second.
Oh, okay.
So when you are browsing through your phone, you know that that's your compressed one.
Makes sense.
So you'll have your master file, which was the one you recorded, and then your compressed file, which will say 60 kilobytes per second or whichever bit rate you had to settle.
Okay, so you can change your name of your folder right here on this page that you're showing us now.
Yes.
Okay.
What I suggest, when you click under export options there, when you click on the folder, I would suggest creating a new folder on your phone for all your lessons. Because the voice recording app that you use will save the voice recording to the voice recording folder. And then when you compress your file, it will save it. You don't want to save it to the same folder as your voice recording app. That might cause issues. So create a new folder called lessons or maths, if that's the subject, and then you can go ahead with that.
Okay.
And then from there, once it's saved on your phone, it's simply a matter of sending it into WhatsApp.
Excellent. Do you think that sending a voice note along with a PDF or a PowerPoint would be something that teachers could possibly do? Would that actually benefit the students? Or do you think just an audio is okay?
I think it's good to have something visual to accompany it. Now, just if you are sending more than one file, so if you are sending a PowerPoint and an audio file, well, this goes back to creating the WhatsApp group. When you create the WhatsApp group, you can set it so that only the teacher can send messages, or that everyone in the group can send messages.
How would you do that?
So you create the group, you just click on the name of the group at the top, and then there are options. You can choose, can only the admin send messages, or can anyone send the message?
Oh, okay.
The advantage of only having the teacher being able to send a message is that it reduces chatter amongst the students. And also, if you are sending multiple files, so let's say if I send my PowerPoint, and now I'm sending my audio, but the audio is taking, it's still loading to send. If 3 students between that time say, oh, thank you, sir. In the chat, you're going to have the PDF, and then you're going to have thank you, sir, thank you, sir, thank you, sir, and then you're going to have the audio.
Oh, totally understand.
So you could have that option for the learners to respond. It just means having strict rules on the group. So you create the group, you say, wait for me to say, okay, now you can discuss before discussions can start. Just something like that.
And that you might not necessarily have a group. So as a teacher, remember, you might not have a group. You might be just sending this out to individual parents, and they might not all be on the group. And that's also okay. But as Matthew was saying, you want to be able to have a group. The reason being is because then you're only sending it once to everybody on a particular group, and then everybody can have it. than sending it to multiple people. That's why having a group is actually more economical, because this is actually what we are focusing on this session, using WhatsApp for little to no, we're looking at platforms for little to no data of how can we actually provide effective and efficient teaching and learning at this time. And so having a group would actually be beneficial. For those of you who still don't really understand how to make a group, if we haven't really broken it down effectively, you could ask one of the children in your houses or homes, or somebody that has done it before. It is quite easy if you just play around with it. What I found with technology, the more you play around with it, the better it becomes. And so even if you make a mistake, there's nothing that really can happen because it's only on your device. So I would say go to WhatsApp. As you're saying, Matthew, it's on the top of the screen on WhatsApp to make a group, a WhatsApp group.
Yes, it'll be at the top. On any app, whenever you see 3 dots on top of each other, that's the menu.
Okay.
So within WhatsApp, you click on the 3 dots and you just press new group. Then all you need to do is tick the people you want to add to the group and press create, and then it's done.
Excellent.
If the situation arises where you need to send the files to someone outside of the group, don't start a chat with them and then send the file. Because what that will do is it will re-upload the file on your end, and it will cost data again to send that file. All you need to do is go to the first time you sent the file, hold down on the file, an arrow will appear at the top of the screen. You click the arrow. What that will do is it will just forward that file to whoever you want to forward to. So if ever you need to send a file over WhatsApp that you've already sent to someone on WhatsApp previously, all you need to do is go to the first time you send it and forward it. Because what forwarding will do, it will bypass you uploading it again, which will save data.
Oh, excellent. I didn't know that. Okay, so forwarding a folder actually uses less data than always uploading it to a particular person.
So getting back to your question on can you send audio with PDFs or PowerPoints. The nice thing about WhatsApp is that when you play an audio file within WhatsApp, you can open any other media file within that chat, and the audio will still be playing.
Okay.
So if I'm in the group chat and I play an audio file, if I press back and go out of the group chat, the file will stop playing in most cases.
Yes.
So sending, especially, it works very well with pictures. So, for example, if you're using pictures, what I suggest would then be to number each picture. So when you send the picture to the group, there's a place you have a description or caption, just put the number 1. Then the next slide or picture, number 2, number 3. So in your voice lesson now, you can say, everyone look at picture 1. And then within the WhatsApp chats, they can click on picture 1. And as you're talking, now look at picture 2. All they need to do is swipe over to picture 2, and the voice note will continue playing. Basically,
so, let me just reiterate if I'm understanding. So if they've opened the voice notes on the WhatsApp group itself, they can click on a picture in that WhatsApp group and the voice note will continue playing without ending every time they go into a picture. But if I go out of the group, the voice note stops.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
When it comes to PDFs, oftentimes when you open a PDF from WhatsApp, it uses another app to open the PDF.
Oh, okay.
So what may happen in that case is the audio file might stop playing. However, I've found with different phones, sometimes the voice note will still play if you do that.
It just depends on the device you're using.
So my suggestion would be, if you have a PDF, take a screenshot of each page. Now, every smartphone can take a screenshot. if you're not sure how to take a screenshot on your specific phone, it's just a matter of Googling how to take a screenshot on, and then say whatever phone you have. So take a screenshot of each page of the PDF or each page of the PowerPoint presentation. Send them one at a time. So send page 1. Make sure that you label it page 1 in the description. That ultimately also saves data. Depending on how big the PDF is. I recently had a situation where I created a PDF on my phone. By the way, if on your phone you can download what's called a scanning app. Just type in scanner on the App Store or the Play Store, and that will allow you to take photos, especially if you're writing stuff down. And it scans it in such a way that it doesn't really look like a photograph, but it looks like it was through a professional printer scan.
Oh, excellent.
A nice one is by Adobe, Adobe, Adobe Scanner. Because then, and especially like for something like maths, where you want to illustrate each step. So you don't need if you don't want to create a PowerPoint, you can literally just write it on a page, each step. Use the app to scan it, and then take a screenshot and send it through the group.
That's excellent. As a teacher, if you want to write notes, you could do that and then scan it.
I mean, why I advocate more for screenshots is primarily because, well, not primarily, I mean, I had a situation now where I sent a PDF to someone, and I had high quality images in the PDF. And so for them to download it would cost more data than they were willing to spend.
Okay.
And so they asked for screenshots, and that's what kind of gave me the idea. And so since then, if just to minimize data, you can take screenshots.
It's important to also understand here that as much as you using data as the teacher, that the other side, as in the children, in order for them to download it on whatever device they're using, they're also using data. So that's something that you would have to think of.
Yes. So, yeah. Yeah, so to answer the question, ultimately, yes, it can work with other media. And I would strongly suggest screenshots, just because you never have to leave the WhatsApp app. Everything can be done within WhatsApp.
That's excellent, because most of South Africans have WhatsApp, and in the South African context, even though you might not have data to surf the internet, for example, on Google or anything else, some people just have WhatsApp data bundles. So they're only working with data within the WhatsApp application. So I think this is an amazing skill to understand and use effectively. And what we must understand with any technology or any application or anything you're learning online, practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the more you learn. And so Matthew, do you have any ending comments or nuggets you want to leave with us before you go?
Practice makes perfect. What I would recommend, create a family group with your family members. And just call it test group. And tell them, listen, you just want to practice this. And then actually record a 20-minute thing, or just let your phone record for 20 minutes and then practice the steps before trying it out with the class.
Wow.
So you can do that, and then maybe just to comment on everything, simply because Apple devices don't allow you to manage audio files locally. By that I mean to directly access the audio files on your device. It always has to be via another app.
Okay.
So for this, Android is the best. In terms of what I've explained.
Yeah.
If you do have an Apple device, what I would then recommend is using the voice memo app on the device that comes pre-installed, and just sending it straight to WhatsApp, because you can trim and edit in that app. But if the file is too big, I would recommend then just recording within WhatsApp if you have an Apple device,
Right.
and then just making sure you do it within the allocated time before it runs out.
Okay.
But yes, I mean this method it's fairly new to me as well. This using WhatsApp. I've only been using it daily since the lockdown has started, and it's proven to work quite effectively. And once you're in the rhythm of it, it's actually extremely easy that someone can go through an entire lesson with audio and visuals from within a WhatsApp chat.
I think this is definitely very helpful, and I see many teachers being able to use this tool, but I don't think if you've tried it once or twice, give up. If you're finding any difficulty, I think that's an excellent idea of having a family group trying it over that platform, because your family would give you advice and say what's working, even give you advice in how certain words that you might be repeating even over audio. So that works. That's an amazing tool. Thank you so much, Matthew, for your expert advice. We've become so much more knowledgeable about this topic, and we want to encourage you to please join us for our next webinar, where we'll be focusing more on different e-data. What do you find that would be effective for bringing in engaging lessons for teaching and learning? And thank you.